everybody.
Could you hear me whistling?
I could. And between you and then the roosters are like right outside my window and they're crowing. And so I'm like, oh my gosh. Hi, everyone. This is Michelle Barone with Moksha Grace Coaching. I know, and welcome to Moment of Presence, where we are going to be present in the present moment, even though we hear all these sounds, because that's part of being present.
I mean, that's how they start meditations, right? They say, just feel into the sounds around you.
Mm-hmm.
Which is always funny to me because they also typically tell you to put earbuds in. And when I have earbuds in, I cannot hear anything around me. So I'm always, whenever they say that, I'm like, wait, which are we doing?
Oh, God. Yeah. And who are you?
Hi, everyone. I am Krista Barone. I am Michelle's sister. No, just kidding, her daughter. But also owner and founder of Wicked Wisdom Consulting, where I help business owners run their operations and get projects done so they can get back to doing what they love. And I am thrilled to be here. I've been on for quite a while now, and I think it's fun.
Yeah, I love when you're on because it's much easier to have a conversation when there's a person to have a conversation with.
Yeah.
Granted, all of you out there in virtual land, I love talking to you, but unless you're making comments and putting your name in the comments, I don't know that you're there, and so it's really a lot of fun when we know you're there. And we have some that are very dedicated and always here. So we are always very thankful to everyone that watches Shockingly Delightful. Yesterday was hysterical. And then, all that have been following this. We're season 3, or
I don't even know now. Now I have to look.
Yeah, it's like season 3 episode
36 or something like that.
We need to add up all the seasons.
Oh my God, we nailed it. Season 3, episode 36.
And so how many episodes per season, and like, when are we going to hit 100? Like, I can't wait.
Well,
maybe we already have.
I mean, the numbers is essentially the weeks in the year, if you think about it.
Oh, well, yeah. So then we've definitely hit.
Oh yeah, we're on. It would be like 140 by now.
Yeah. Wow.
How exciting. Well, not me and you. You have. I haven't been on all of them.
Well, moment of presence.
Moment of presence. Yeah.
All right. So before we get started in today's topic, why don't we, while we wait for a few more people to join us, why don't we bring ourselves into the moment, and then we're going to talk about this week's this month's theme, and then this week's specific topic. Sound good?
Love it. Let's do it.
All right. So as you're breathing in, I just want you to just, in your mind, just see Aretha Franklin, just R-E-S-P-E-C-T. So just big deep breath in. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Find out what it means to me. Exhale.
You can't hold a breath if you make me laugh.
Deep breath in. And hold. And nice slow exhale. This is one way we respect our bodies, is to acknowledge breath. Deep breath in. And out.
And if you're joining us, add a comment and let us know that you're here and who you are, where you're from, what your thoughts are.
Yeah. And even sing with us. R-E-S-P. Okay. Enough of that. So for September, I wanted to have a conversation, and I really like these themes. It keeps us a little bit more tight on the conversation, especially me. And we just get to follow along, and it just gives us a good jumping off point. So for September, we are talking about respect. And each week we're going to talk about different types of respect. Mm-hmm. So this week we're talking about respecting your fellow I wanted it to say beings, and we threw in human because, we're human.
I think you had human beings, and it may have cut off the beings, and so I only saw humans until it was too late. And by I mean I know that that's what happened.
That, I mean, that's fine. I was going more for beings, because really, if you strip away our um, skin, our outfit that is our body, we're all just energy. So it doesn't matter what color we are, what gender we are, we're all the same. It's energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so my whole point, my thought process with this when I was thinking about it was, can we just respect each other's energy and how we show up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily who we are, but how we're showing up in the world. And when we come into a situation where we're clashing or heads are butting, and it's so important right now, because of the things that are happening in the world. And we're coming up into November, which is going to be a really interesting month. And we're not going to get into politics, but we do have to prepare ourselves, so that way, it's in dog training, they say train for a situation. So you train your dog to pay attention to you, so that way when you're out, let's say on a walk, and a cat runs across the street, they don't go chasing after the cat, because they're listening to you.
Should
And
we
so
do a little
that's,
shout out real quick?
of course we can. That came from, go ahead.
Roseanne Calabrese of Game on Dog Training.
Yes. And so she's amazing. And so she really talks about training for the situation. You're setting yourself up for success with your dog, with yourself. So that's what I was thinking when I came up with this whole month.
Mm-hmm.
So, respect for your fellow human beings. There are going to be conversations. There's always conversations, and people are going to agree or disagree. When you're having a conversation with a person, how many times, and I can raise my hand, and I can absolutely admit that there are times where I may not be in the moment, and instead I'm thinking, well, how am I going to reply? What am I going to say? I'm
Mm-hmm.
formulating my response, or I should say my reaction. And that's not truly being in that conversation. That's just being in the space. And so it's really important to, number one, be in the moment and hear what the other person is telling you, whether you agree or you don't agree. And one of the things that I love to suggest is, ask yourself, what's truly important to this person? What are they trying to convey to me by telling me the story, or by telling me their perspective or their point of view?
Mm-hmm.
And then that helps me focus on them, not my rebuttal.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense?
No, it totally makes sense, and it's a more effective way of listening.
Mm-hmm.
The other way to say, and I don't think he phrased it like this, is, are you listening to listen, or are you listening to respond? And if
Right.
you're only ever listening to respond, that's how you miss what people say. I mean, I even notice I do it. You and I will be talking, and you'll tell me something, and you'll walk away, and then I'll go, wait, what did she just say? Not necessarily because I was listening to respond, but I was only like half listening, and then I'll go, wait, what did you just tell me again? And then I'll actually be listening. But there's, especially in our society where everything is so social media based and everyone's always looking at their phones and it's instant communication, we've actually very much have lost the ability to listen in general, and especially when it's somebody that has an opinion that's different than ours.
Mm-hmm. And it's one of the things that you mentioned the other day. We've also gotten away from focusing,
Mm-hmm.
and so we're not focusing as much on the conversation. We're focusing on the other things that are going on around, or we're focusing again internally. And so, I created a kind of do's and don'ts
Mm-hmm.
for these type of conversations, and at the very top is, turn off your flipping ego.
Mm-hmm.
Like, turn your ego off. Your ego is going to mess with you.
Yeah.
And it's not about your ego. It's not about winning a conversation. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something that I absolutely need to add to this list is, are you listening to win, or are you listening to be happy, like be
Yeah.
part of the relationship, the connection with the person?
Yeah.
But if you're there to just butt heads, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And is it going to create change in the world?
Yeah.
Is it going to create value? And if it's not, and it's just going to drag your energy down to a point where you don't want it, then get out of Dodge.
Yeah.
Like, you can.
Well, and I heard something earlier today, and I think it goes right along with this is, there's a lot of arguments now of like, if someone says something that goes against what's popular, what someone specifically believes in, then there's this idea that that other person, those other people need to be silenced. And the thing that someone said it earlier, and I think it's such a great point, is the First Amendment protects free speech. The only reason to have the First Amendment and free speech as a law, which is everyone is free to say what they want to say, the only way that that matters is if you allow those that don't believe in the same thing as you. It only matters if you allow them to speak. And that's critical, because if you don't allow that, then who's going to stop you from speaking? And if nobody can share differing opinions, then we've got a big problem. Then we have just straight up, I don't think I can say the word because we may get flagged, but ways of government that exist in other countries that are not pleasant places to live because the people have no control. And so it's a very dangerous line that we're walking right now, in that we can't just have conversations with differing opinions. Maybe if it's something small, like I think the sky is a shade of this blue and I think it's this kind of shade of blue. That's a small example, but even that in some cases can get heated. But when it comes to the really big thing, we're not even able to have conversations. And, like it was mentioned in the write up for this episode, is this is going to become a very, 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 very big thing in the fall, the rest of the year. We're in September. It's September 5th. The rest of the year is going to be very tumultuous. And if we cannot have calm, civilized, educated conversations, we're not going to have a very good time in life as humanity.
Yeah, it's going to get really stressful. Hey, Raymond, how are you? Welcome. Um, and I think that we forget when we're having these conversations, when we're so far into our belief and we think we are so right, and
Mm-hmm.
there is no other answer, there's no other right to this other than what I believe. We forget that there's most likely a common ground.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, if you take off our skin suits, we're all energy.
Yeah.
And don't we all want ultimately to have a good life, to be happy,
Mm-hmm.
to have free will,
Yeah.
to be safe? And so if we all can bring ourselves to that, yes, there's different ways to go about it. And I get that there's some beliefs over here and there's some beliefs here and there's some beliefs here. Notice I'm not going right or I'm going everywhere. Um, but there is common ground.
Mm-hmm.
And it's listening to listen, and then getting curious.
Mm-hmm.
What are the common ground?
Yeah.
What are the common points? And then is there a compromise that can be made?
Mm-hmm. Or how about maybe it's not even your place to say anything? So many things online I see, someone sharing a trick, a parenting hack, as it's called these days, that worked for their kid.
Right.
And the comment section is just all of these people. Half of them are berating it's usually a mom. Half of them are berating the mom.
Right.
How dare she think that that would be okay for all children? And it's like she's literally just talking about her own kid. And the other half are saying, yeah, that's all right, but you should do it this way because it's better. And so it doesn't even have anything to do with you. Someone is sharing their thoughts. There's no law saying you have to do it that way. There's no, example I give all the time is when you and I are doing dishes. We have a very different way of doing
Yeah.
dishes. Not harming anyone to do it your way. Do the dishes take a little bit longer to dry? Maybe, but that's neither here nor there. Like it's not there's nothing saying that you have to do it one way or the other way.
Right.
Just you just roll with it. But there's become this contention in society where it's like, even things that have absolutely nothing to do with someone else, there's like this internal ego situation that happens where people feel
Mm-hmm.
like other people have to do things their way because it's the only way to do it. And it's just become very wild and crazy.
And there has to be an argument, but there doesn't have to be an argument.
Yeah.
Scroll past it if you don't like something that someone said. We
Or
had
scroll, that's online. In person, just move the conversation along.
right. Change the conversation. Walk into a crematorium, but um,
That's in reference to a comment.
yes,
That I found.
there's a
Yeah, there you
funny
go.
comment.
That's
Um,
very funny, Raymond. Nice one.
and and honestly, there are times where throwing in humor, throwing in, a diversion
Hmm.
when somebody is going off on you and trying to convince you, and
Hmm.
they are making it their mission to convert you to their way of believing.
Hmm.
That's a great way to diffuse the situation, whether it's humor
Depends
or
on the person, really.
well, that's true too, but if they don't like the fact that you're trying to change the subject, then it's definitely time to get out of Dodge,
Yeah.
because again, you don't have to be held hostage in a conversation that's making you feel uncomfortable. Now, the question is, do you take a step back and ask yourself and get curious, why is this conversation making me uncomfortable? And so that's the important part after the fact, is why was it making me uncomfortable?
Hmm.
Is it because they believe so far on a different way than I do? Is it because I'm so passionate about my way and now you're bringing your ego into it and maybe you've been triggered?
Hmm.
So there's ways to look at that
Yeah.
and learn from those situations.
Yeah. And I think we can honestly, inserting a little bit of humor, but also seriously, is I think we can take a little bit of a page from um, the way that children act. It is very, very common for a kid to just go, I'm not having fun anymore, and walk away. Like, it's perfectly fine if you're in. I mean, we have known some people that are just I mean, I've been that person. Let's be honest. The version of me 10 years ago was that person who just would get so into conversations and just feel the need to have everyone like believe and think the things that I do.
Mhm.
And you can just literally just, you know what? I've got to go take a phone call, or you know what? Or even just be honest and say, you know what? I'm really not enjoying this. I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
I love you, but I'm gonna go because this isn't harmonious anymore.
And that is a really great point, because does the love have to stop because of beliefs
Not at
and
all.
because of opposing perspectives? And does that mean you have to cut a person off? And
Your mom was
so
a great example of this. She was a debater till the day was over. We were not.
yeah.
And how many times did we say to her, you know what? Let's not get into this. Let's just not
Right.
get into this topic. That
Yeah.
topic is off limit for today's lunch. And move
Or
on.
Thanksgiving. We're not
Or
going to discuss
Thanksgiving, or
this
yeah.
at Thanksgiving. However, then she did start asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
There were times where she would ask questions like, well, so tell me more about that. And so so you don't have to drag people.
Yeah.
You just have to be open to having a conversation and feel safe for them to ask.
Yeah.
But that goes both ways. It goes both ways.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's really important for all of us to remember mutual respect
Mm-hmm.
for other beings.
Because guess what? No matter, unless you are a bear, which actually a bear is even going to be scared away. That's the whole point, is that you scream to get a bear away from you.
Yeah.
Nobody responds well to heated conversation. You're
No.
not, the louder you scream is not going to convert the other person more. or be more effective. What is actually effective is just having conversation in a calm, educated, factual way.
Hmm.
And even then, you still may not convert the person to your way of thinking, but at least you don't leave with a bad taste in your mouth. At
Right.
least you don't leave and say, God, I don't want to see them again for a while because they just berated me for 15 minutes.
Right. Over not wanting to, give up meat.
Yeah.
It's just, uh, and I think setting the intention before you go into a situation. So if you know that a person has a different perspective or a different way of thinking or limiting beliefs, whether they're, let's just say, different beliefs, because we don't know that they're limited. Um, Going into the conversation and setting the intention in your own mind of,
Hmm.
I'm not here to argue.
Yeah.
I'm just going to listen. And there's been times where I've actually said to somebody, you know what, I don't know enough about this topic to really have a full on
Oh,
opinion,
yeah.
but
Hmm.
you've made me curious and I'm going to look
Yeah.
into this.
I said to someone, you know what? I get the sense that we're on very opposite sides of the spectrum here. So I'd actually love if we didn't go into that conversation. And
Mhm.
I'd love to talk about something else and we can talk about this
Yeah.
and that. But I really don't think that's going to be productive. So maybe we'll talk about something else because I think you also, you know, if you can have civilized conversations, absolutely, yes, they need to be had. But if you know, like we've known people where we know during the holidays, like, do not bring up this topic or this topic because it
Mhm.
will start an argument. It's just is going to happen. We didn't intend it that way, but no matter what we say, it will trigger the other person. And this is where that concept of do you want to be right or do you want to be in have peace comes into play. It's not about the concept of limiting yourself for the other person. It's about knowing, you know what? I know that this is going to trigger them. So I'm gonna not bring that up right now, and I'll talk about it later with somebody else. But I know that this is gonna bother them, so I'd rather not get into it.
Right. It's respecting,
Mhm.
not accommodating, but respecting
Yeah.
who they are if
Right.
you know them well enough.
Right.
And then you can make those compromises
Hmm.
of, we're just going to agree to disagree, which is a great one.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, Tarina, I like chocolate. Krista absolutely likes strawberry. I'm a chocolate girl. I want chocolate and Heath bar and caramel sauce and
I like chocolate ice cream too. Oh wait, I don't know why I just assumed it was ice cream, but
I did too, like chocolate and strawberry. Um, but yeah, I mean, but every topic can be as deep as that. I have several friends who do not agree with it. Me respecting this.
absolutely, Raymond. Absolutely. You know
Absolutely.
what it is for me is I absolutely agree with you, but there does come a point with certain people, and it has happened before where I know I love that person, but I know I need to love them from afar because I know that
Right.
because of their personality, we are unable to just have any sort of civilized conversation because it always goes back to a certain topic. But I agree with you. I there's plenty of people that I still love dearly, but I just know that we're not compatible to be close friends or family member anymore because it doesn't mesh well.
Right.
But we absolutely can still love from afar, and that's part of it is so many people believe, well, if you don't agree with exactly what I think, that you're my enemy. And it couldn't be farther from the truth. That is not how it works.
Right.
An enemy would be someone looking out, trying to do harm upon you. We're just talking about different beliefs.
Yeah.
It's really very
Absolutely.
simple. But it can, depending on what it is, it can get more intense than that. What's
Yeah.
another do on your list?
A do. So turn off judgment.
Mm,
Turn off your freaking judgment. Like, just listen to listen, not to judge what they're saying,
yeah.
decide whether it makes sense or not to you. Just turn off your judgment and just listen. And my favorite thing is getting curious about, why are they sharing it with you in the first place?
Yeah.
Why is it important? What are they trying to tell you?
Or
If
even just look at it, allow yourself to see it from a perspective that's not yours. Allow yourself to go there and look at it and go, okay, I can see why they feel that way.
Hmm.
because that really helps remove a lot of the emotional component from it, is when you can bring yourself to more of that rational, logical, not rational, logical place of just seeing, tap into where they're coming from and just see from their perspective for a second. And
Hmm.
it can help you really remove yourself from it emotionally.
And that's the other thing, is take the emotion out of it,
Yeah. Yeah.
because just because they feel that way and you're hearing the words,
Mhm.
it's not like the word is going to stick to you. Like,
Mhm.
what was that saying in school?
Oh, is it in your, I'm rubber, you're glue, what, something, something sticks to you?
Yeah,
What you
it's
throw
not
it,
going to,
oh, what you throw at me sticks to you, maybe?
something like that.
Something like
I'm
that.
sure someone in the comments can put it in there and knows it the right way. But it's not going to it's not catching. It's not contagious. You're not going to get anything from it unless you start buying into it. And
Wait, I forgot what we were talking about. The rubber and glue thing threw me off. What are we talking
just
about?
because you're hearing someone else's opinion and
Gotcha.
you're listening,
Mhm.
even though you don't agree with it, it's not going to, like, convert you into this person that you don't want to be just because you're
Yeah,
hearing the words.
right,
Now,
right.
can it suck the energy out of you? Can it bring down your vibration?
Mhm.
Yes,
Yeah.
actually, it can. And so, how can you protect yourself? Well, I have a very wonderful mentor that is like, I need a second. And when he needs a second, he needs a second, and he removes himself from the situation or just pauses the conversation. I need a moment.
Mhm.
You are absolutely in your right. I'm rubber, you're glue. It bounces off me and sticks to you. Yes.
Thank you,
Thank
Rachel.
you, Raymond. Thank you.
Well, and I think the other part of it too is there's this, and it may be very much more subconscious than conscious, but this fear that if I listen to somebody else and what they say makes sense, my whole foundation is going to crumble.
I
If
think that's a
I
huge fear
if
of some
I
people.
change,
Mhm.
and again, it's subconscious. I think most of the time, I don't think people think, oh, if I change, this thought, my entire infrastructure collapses. But I think it very much is an internalized fear that people have. Is that, well, if this is true, it's kind of like the example with aliens. People for a long time
Mhm.
we're like, oh no, we don't talk about aliens. And the concept was that, like, if aliens are real, then the entire concept of God it collapses. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. I
Right.
mean, of course, it depends on your thoughts on aliens, but the way that we believe in extraterrestrial life, that couldn't be farther from the truth. It actually only bolsters and proves a sort of, God energy universe
Yeah.
even more true. But it's the same sort of concept where, like, just because you decide to shift your opinion in one area does not mean that your entire foundation and infrastructure collapses. It just means that maybe you make some small little shifts, and you at any point can decide to wear a different hat from one day to the other. At
Yeah.
any point, you can decide to just, when you go to a store, what do? You try on clothes. You can try on different beliefs and thoughts and whatever, and just see how they feel.
Mhm. Well,
And
and
the
going
only way to do that is through having conversations and listening and learning and just hearing different perspectives.
and making it an experience, an adventure, like, going back to Tarina's comment about the chocolate and strawberry. Just because you try strawberry doesn't mean
Mhm.
that you're going to all of a sudden start hating chocolate and
Yeah.
that you're never going to want it again.
Mhm.
You're allowed to taste and come up with your own opinion.
Mhm.
And
And guess what? You could even mix chocolate and strawberry.
oh my gosh,
What?
what? Chocolate covered strawberries? Yeah, I mean, yeah, aliens or time travelers. Yeah, what if what if aliens are actually us from a different plane and we're
I
coming
have
here?
I have different thoughts on this. That is going to be a shockingly delightful episode soon enough. So I'll hold my thoughts until that happens. But Raymond, I
Okay.
have thoughts on this.
Okay. All right. So let them speak if you're comfortable with listening. Listening to hear them being present, getting
Hold on, let's go
curious.
back for a second because I want to touch on this a little bit. This
Yes.
is something you and I have talked about before. Let them speak if you are comfortable with listening. With the caveat
Mm-hmm.
that if you are the person that has a hard time not becoming emotional, if you're the person that has a hard time listening to someone else's opinion, it is a very good exercise to actually practice doing that, to build up your
Okay.
tolerance, to build up your ability to do that, because it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't just happen overnight. You don't just decide one day I'm going to be okay listening to people with different opinions. It very much is something that it's something that you have to build up and get practice at. And to do that, it does require you to be a little bit uncomfortable at first, but the more that you are able to do that, the length of time that you can tolerate that becomes greater, and then it no longer is a problem. You don't have those emotional upheavals. You don't have those issues because you're able to sit in the discomfort of it.
Yeah.
That's not to say sit in the discomfort to the point that you like have a full-blown meltdown or panic attack. That's not what we're talking about. Just slow increments of exposing yourself to that. And it could very well, if you don't want to do it with a live person, put on a YouTube video of someone you know you disagree with and just, watch 5 minutes of it. Watch 2 minutes of it if that's all you can stand. 2 minutes, increase it to five, increase it to 10, increase it to 15,
Mm-hmm.
get through a whole episode and build that tolerance, because that's the only way that you're going to be able to do that.
Right.
The muscle that you have to build.
Yeah. So two things on that. One, I have been listening to things from a from that are opposite of my beliefs. I know I'm like trying to think of how to say this so I don't get,
Flag,
flagged.
which is a problem in and of itself, but topic for another time.
So I have been listening to, I'll just call it rhetoric,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, rhetoric from different areas and building up my I don't
Tolerance.
want to say tolerance, but
But
giving
here's the
but
thing,
just the
we need to
hearing.
take that word back.
Okay,
Tolerance
so
means an
tolerance, building up my
ability.
tolerance, but I also am doing it because I want to know what other people are hearing,
Right.
because I'm shocked sometimes by the things that
Mm-hmm.
are out there,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, "What?"
Well,
Because I'm hearing completely different things.
and let's not forget, what are we all on? We're all on social media.
Mhm.
Social media algorithms are built to show you more of what you
Mhm.
already like. And so, even more now than ever, we are only being exposed to the things that we like because the algorithms are getting so sophisticated. So, even more of a reason why building this tolerance to hear others' opinions is literally going to be a gold mine soon enough.
Okay, seriously? I was listening to a congressional hearing, and I'm not going to talk about the politics of it, but just the fact that I was listening to a congressional hearing. But the tagline that got my attention was that one of the congressmen said to a certain person in charge of a certain social media at one time, like, does your platform still suck? And like, your agreements still suck. But then went on to say, discussing the algorithms,
Mm,
and how dare you take away people's rights to hear both sides
mm,
because your algorithms are only showing them one way.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
that goes back to, as create, and we won't get too far into that, that's for another time, but asking middle school kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? And only putting them on that track, only putting them with those classes that are going to support that decision that they made when they were like 14.
Yeah.
I was 40 before I knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. 14? At 14, I think I wanted to be like a zookeeper. I don't know.
Let's get back to the do and don't list.
Okay.
We haven't touched on any don'ts, so let's finish
Okay,
up the
so
do list.
do not conjure up a reply as they're talking.
Mhm.
Do not attempt to fix, convince them of your point of view. If you're going to talk to somebody and you know that they have a different way of thinking,
Mhm.
you can just talk and like tell them like why this is important to you, but you don't have to be like, and you're wrong if you don't think like me. Like, you don't have to become this ogre about it. Like, There is nothing that serious in this world.
Oh my lord.
Abraham Hicks says that all the time. Like, there is nothing serious going on. It's life. We're here to appreciate and experience life.
Hmm.
That means there's going to be different opinions.
Hmm.
We're supposed to be embracing that,
Yeah.
not pushing against it,
Yeah.
and not trying to make everybody conform to be one way.
Hmm.
It's not one way.
You know what? You know where people have fully conformed and there's only one way of doing things? The Matrix, when everyone's in a pod and their energy is being sucked out to fuel the Matrix.
Yeah.
So no thanks. I'll keep my differing opinions and that exists currently in our world.
So here's another big one. Do not respond or share your point of view or your perspective unless you actually ask them if they're open to hearing your perspective. Like, if you don't realize you're in a debate, first check, like, are we talking openly about this? Like, do you want to hear my perspective or what I think about this, or are you just sharing? Because I appreciate you sharing, but are you open to hearing my perspective? And by doing that, it's a more respectable way to kind of present your thoughts. And so,
It
and you take away the edginess a little bit.
Well, it also is a very common psychological frame where it disables a person's defenses to a
Yes.
certain degree when you ask permission to bring something up that they may not like. And this even goes for
Right.
just if you have, if someone asks, oh, a good example. If someone goes, oh, so what did you think of my boyfriend? Let's say you just went to dinner with, your best friend and her
Dear
new
God.
boyfriend. What did you think of my boyfriend? Do I have your permission to be completely honest here? Oh my God, yeah, of course. Perfect. And I versus, oh my God, what'd you think? Oh, he was a beep, 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 beep. And now that girl is going, oh my God, what do you mean? It helps to just remove the defenses a little bit. And you'll hear this
Yeah,
often. Coaches will do this a lot too, because
absolutely.
coaching is definitely a place where you may hear something that you didn't necessarily want to
Hmm.
hear, but you need to hear. And so they're framing the conversation that way can really, really help it not become an emotional situation.
Yes. You
Yeah,
have to
totally,
be,
Serena.
yeah, you have to be open.
Mm,
And even though my clients come to me for coaching, there are times where I know if it could potentially hit hard, where I'm going to say, are you open? Do you want to go deeper into this? Because sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't.
totally,
Absolutely.
Serena.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because that's why you come to a coach.
Hmm.
And you don't have to, well, you might one day, we might sit across each other, the table from each other in like Thanksgiving, but when you go to your family and you're asking, like, how do I look? Oh, or do what do you think of my boyfriend, or something like that? Or was this the right decision for me? Or I made a mistake? Or what? You're asking them to give you their opinion, their advice, their truth. But if you don't like it,
Hmm.
you're going to have to deal with it. And again, that you're sitting across the table from them. You may live with them. And so sometimes the truth doesn't always come out the way that it could, should, or maybe it shouldn't.
Hmm.
My grandmother once said to me, "Don't ever complain about your husband to your mother,
Hmm.
because your mother loves you more than she loves your husband. So if you're going to complain about your husband, go to his mother." And
I think I would even argue that goes for friendships too.
absolutely. Absolutely. And it made so much sense, and
Yeah.
I wish she had told me that way, way, way earlier than she did.
Hi,
Oh,
Tia.
hi, Tia. All right. So do let's see. Okay, unless we ask our opinion, do not tell them that they're wrong for the way that they feel. It's their journey, it's their life, it's their emotions. You have no right to judge them and tell them if they're wrong or if they're right.
Yeah.
That is their journey.
And
If
it's gonna be it can be very uncomfortable for you, but
yeah,
it's not your choices. It's not your choice to believe in whatever. It's not your choice to act in a certain way, to say a certain thing. You can provide an opinion.
yeah.
You can give your thoughts, but it's
Mhm.
ultimately not your choice or responsibility.
Tia, I'm really glad that you brought that up because I actually put that the definition of respect. So there were lots of definitions, right? But to refrain from interfering with, that's the one we're talking about today. Is to refrain from interfering with unless you're asked to.
Hmm.
Because again, it's not your flippin' journey. It's
Hmm.
not even your place to save somebody, to rescue somebody.
Yeah.
You can be there for them, but you cannot drag them
Yeah.
to get help. When we talked about this with the you can lead a horse to water
Yeah. Yeah. We
conversation,
did on Shockingly
um,
Delightful.
it's the same type of thing.
Yeah.
So all in all, what the bottom line, the big takeaway from this is mutual respect for our mutual human beings or beings, because we are all energy. We are all connected. And when you berate someone else, you are basically berating you, because the bottom line is that what you don't like that you see in someone else is probably because you feel like you're looking in a mirror.
I don't agree with that. It's either well, it's twofold. Either it's because you're looking in a mirror, or it's so completely opposite from who you are that it feels foreign to you. So I
Yeah.
think there's two sides of it, but it that requires you to be very honest with yourself of which one it is.
Yeah. Well, radical acceptance,
Yeah,
radical responsibility,
yeah,
radical respect.
yeah.
So, I thank you all for joining us today. And as
Well, let
always,
me ask you, Michelle. You're kind of closing up very soon. For those that need help,
I
for
was
those who
thinking into
may
that.
for those who may be listening. Oh, good, Tia. I'm glad that was helpful.
Yes.
For those who feel like maybe they do tend to react emotionally a lot, or they're surrounded by people who tend to react emotionally a lot, and they need some help either refining themselves or kind of getting their emotions under control. And I probably said that not the right way of how you like to say it, but what do you suggest for those people? What can you do to help? What do you have to offer?
We have to have that radical acceptance of ourselves, and that means all parts of ourselves.
Hmm.
And there's going to be parts of ourselves that we're not too crazy about, but you know what? It's still part of us.
Yeah.
And so that radical acceptance and listening from within is what helps us gain back the control of our emotions so that we can respectfully respond when we need to,
Hmm.
versus just getting triggered and reacting.
Hmm.
There are reasons for everything. There's no coincidences. And it's taking a step back and looking at what am I supposed to be learning in this situation? And it goes with these conversations too. So if you're having a lot of relationship issues, um, career issues,
And that's not necessarily romantic relationship. That's just
no,
friendship,
absolutely.
family, friend, all of
Yeah.
it.
Life issues, then it may be time for you to take radical responsibility for your life and start looking within, because change has to happen within you first,
Hmm.
and then you can affect other people. And that's what I do with my clients, is help them gain control of their emotions so their emotions aren't running them ragged
Yeah.
and destroying lives and relationships.
And one of those coaching opportunities, the call is one of the calls are tonight.
Absolutely. So Odonata Community is on Thursday nights. It is a group coaching call and it's a subscription. So you can join for a month. test it out, see how you like it. You want to keep going? Let's keep going. Some people would rather or need one on one, and I offer that as well. And then I also offer an
Hold
even
on, hold on,
deeper.
hold on. Let's do links real quick. The Odonata community, if you're interested in monthly coaching, that link is mokshagrace.com/community. The call is tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. There's also a private Facebook group and some fun activities and stuff like that. So if you're interested in the monthly coaching subscription, that is mokshagrace.com/community. But if you are more interested possibly in one-on-one coaching, or you aren't sure which is the right fit for you, then you're going to want to book your free compatibility call, which is mokshagrace.com/coaching. And that's where you and Michelle will have a conversation and figure out what is the best route for you. And if it is one-on-one coaching, which of those options is the best fit for you? Go ahead.
Hence why Krista is a producer, wizard of ops, director,
Yeah,
all around.
I got you, boo.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, so you can find me at mokshagrace.com, anywhere on social media under Moksha Grace. And Krista, if people need a Krista in their life to help them get on track and start a new business or get their business upscaled, where can they find you?
You guys can find me at wickedwisdomconsulting.com. I'm also on LinkedIn and Facebook under Wicked Wisdom Consulting. And yeah, one other thing I just want to add that I find really useful is if you are dealing with someone that the conversation really isn't flowing in both directions, what can be helpful if you do want to try to reach them a little bit is to ask questions. So ask questions that relate to the thoughts that they believe in, because what happens a lot is as you ask questions, they kind of come to their own conclusions. So if you feel like you're kind of talking to someone that's not getting it, and maybe it's for their own well-being, which can happen in a lot of cases, ask questions and kind of try to help them get there on their own, so to speak,
Mhm.
versus trying to force it down their throat. But yeah, so wickedwisdomconsulting.com, anything operations related, business related, we can chit chat about it.
Well, as I like to say, every day is a new day. And when you wake up, you get to make a choice. Is it going to be a good day or a bad day? So choose wisely. And we will see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for being here.